Welcome to Bruno's MMA show. I am here today with MC Nara, also known as the voice of One Championship. Hello, Nara.
Hello.
So this is kind of interesting. So it's the first time I have an MC as a guest. And first of all, like MC stands for what exactly?
MC stands for Master of Ceremonies.
Wow.
Yeah, so pretty much like it can go into all aspects of like hosting, as well as like club emceeing, as well as like event emceeing. So it's just like the person who kind of guides the audience along the way.
Okay. And basically, what would be the difference, like for someone like me who's not like well versed into those things? What would be the difference between an MC and a DJ, the disc jockey? What's the difference between those? Yeah.
So a DJ is the person, a disc jockey, who actually plays the music and selects the songs and mixes the songs. And an MC doesn't even have to touch the CDJs or the vinyl. They're the ones with the microphone. So they're the ones that are like hyping up and like getting people to dance along with them.
Okay.
So you could have a party with just the DJ.
Okay.
You couldn't have a party with just an MC.
Okay, very well. Okay. So, and I know I could have Googled all of that, but obviously it's more interesting if I ask you directly. So let's see. Now, here's the thing. So you're the voice of one. And what does that mean exactly, that you're the voice of one championship?
I guess I am, when the fighters come out and they're getting all pumped up and
Yes.
I'm the person that yells representing and their country and their name and their nickname. And I kind of like, I'm like their entrance when they come into the arena. Yeah.
And I have to say right now, I don't know how to put it, but this is really compliment. Right now you have a very normal voice, but when we're talking, but when you introduce a fighter, it is such a specific, peculiar, fun voice, and I wouldn't even know how to put it, but when you're introducing it, like, I'm gonna mess up the name, but your voice pops on in my head, and I hear like, I think it's live from Kuala Lumpur or something like that, and like this fighter, and the way you say it, it's really like a fun voice to hear for an event. I don't know how else to put it, but is there something that, I mean, obviously you must consciously practice the way you say things for a show, right? Yeah.
Yes, before any event, there's of course I get the fighters' names, I have to rehearse the pronunciation and everything. And especially with their music. When I get their music, I have to work out the timing, so that it peaks just as they're walking out.
Yeah.
It also has to go with the music. So it takes a little bit of practice. But yeah, the voice itself, that's just fun. That's just me screaming at the top of my lungs.
Okay.
It's exciting.
Okay. That's what the voice becomes when you're screaming, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fun. So it's true. Okay, now you're saying something that's interesting, because if someone has a very short name, and then you have like someone with a very long name, depending what country they're from, so you really have to time it differently.
Yes, and I have a hard time pronouncing some of the names. It takes a lot of practice because we have a lot of international fighters, right?
Yeah.
So you have to get the accent right. It's a like, sometimes when we do it and then we have live events, it's like, okay, don't mess it up, don't mess it up, don't mess it up.
So yeah, because I imagine like if you mess it up and it's like that fighter's first fight in that stage, or the biggest one he's had yet, or she, and then suddenly like everyone's saying their name the way you said it. No pressure. But I mean, I can see where you're coming from.
Exactly. If he's walking into the circle for the first time, and then you say his name wrong, how's he gonna feel going to the fight?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. It's it's kind of funny. Because I'm not gonna get into it right. Like I'm not gonna mention the show, I guess. But my last name is Spanish, but I live in a place where people speak English and French, and in French they can also, when you can say it in French, let's say. So I spent my whole life just telling people how to write it, and I just let them pronounce it in French. Basically, it's just one of those things where it kind of messes at some point with you when you hear your last name in so many different ways, and people are always like, like having their own version of it. It kind of does mess a little bit with you in a way. You get used to it, but it's kind of funny.
Very true. Very true.
But I guess if you go to a place like one, I have questions about, do you have resources for, oh, how do I spell his name, her name? Do you have that sort of resource available to you, or are you on your own in the internet?
Oh, no, no, no. Definitely we have, before any of our events, we have our fighters record how to say their name properly.
Okay.
And then we as the announcers do get that voice notes, so we know exactly how to pronounce their name. And
Okay.
yeah, we need that. We have to be all on the same page as far as that goes.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Okay, this is gonna be a question that it's so specific to people who are multilingual, I guess. But so I speak French, English, and Spanish, and English the one being the one where I have the most of an accent on with. But what I found interesting is when you speak many languages, you find out that sometimes you hear languages you don't speak, but you find yourself being able to, oh, this sound I know from this other language I speak, or you have like different tools that someone who speaks less languages than you, like they don't have as many sounds in their arsenal, and so for example, when I went to many years ago when I was way younger, at some point I went on a trip to Tokyo, and I would come across people from other Westerners who spoke more Japanese than I did because I basically spoke none of it, but I could hear how awful their pronunciation was. And I could draw on my Spanish. It's funny. I could draw on my Spanish to pronounce Japanese better. I didn't feel like I needed to add like a W at the end of a no, for example. Like the letter O. So it's all of those things where it kind of becomes interesting. So what languages would you say, or what names from which nationalities are the ones that give you the most trouble, where like you have the least amount of pronunciation tools, let's say?
That's easy. The answer to that question is the Chinese names always give me. Oh, they're so hard. The intonation, like they have like ch 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 ch. Like you have to. It's so difficult, and you have to get the right one. It's like I have to practice the Chinese names way more than any other language, any other nationality. But the Chinese names, I have to put in like 3 times as much effort to get it the way that it needs to sound. And
Yeah,
of course, it's not my mother tongue. So you're
yeah.
learning this whole tonation as you're
Oh,
getting the names.
but Chinese languages, the thing is that there's many. For example, all of the 3 languages I speak, including English, of course. English is the one where I have an accent, so you can speak with an accent and people will understand you. Like the languages I speak, French, English, Spanish, like even if you have like a really thick accent, those words don't change. So even if someone might go like, okay, that's not how I say it, but I recognize the word. I remember, oh my God, so long ago, like when I was way younger, I was a busboy at the restaurant, and I had this coworker who was, well, it was kind of funny. He was Vietnamese, but of a Chinese family, and only spoke, regarding Asian languages, he only spoke Cantonese. I don't know how that worked, but anyway. And he would teach me some sentences, and I still remember a few words, but like the thing is that only he would understand my Cantonese. Like only he would understand what I. So okay, let's see. I'm gonna butcher it, of course, but let's say we're out of bread, And the thing is that it sounds funny, but if you speak another language in a crowd, the other person will pick it up easier because it's something that comes out. So if I would go like TY, I would go. So let's see, quick is fighty, I think, and bread is mimpao. So it would just go like fighty mimpao, and I'm sure people would say I pronounced all very wrong. But then like he would teach me a few things, and then at some point as a joke, I wanted to tell him Cantonese, shut up, and he told me, you just said the word key. So just because I could not pronounce, like my pronunciation could never be like a native speaker, just having an accent changes your word.
Yes, definitely.
So it's almost impossible, almost. I mean, unless you have a very natural talent and an amazing skill at picking out languages, I think it's one of those languages where you can certainly learn it to understand it, but for the natives to understand you, it's almost like you must have a gift in tongues, or else it's not going to happen, because just having an accent is going to kill the possibility of being understood to a certain degree. I don't know. That's how I perceive it. I don't know if that was your experience, but.
I'm just lucky. All I have to say is their name and the country.
Oh.
I'm not saying like full sentences. Thank goodness. I would probably lose my job.
But one, I imagine they have Imagine they have, so I know that when I watch it on YouTube, one championship, free on YouTube, everyone, by the way, amazing fights, MMA, kickboxing, Muay Thai, and sometimes other ones here and there. And it's through one that I actually learned that there's more of a difference in kickboxing and Muay Thai than just in kickboxing they can't throw elbows. That was my perception before, but there's more differences. But so one is
There's a lot more rules. A lot more rules.
yeah, and one is very good at educating people on the different rule sets because they have different rule sets in one night, and which is pretty fun. So they're very good at as fighters come into like the cage, the ring, the circle, the how do you call it in one the circle, right?
The circle.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just this fun thing where okay, like, they're very good at explaining the rules very quickly, which is amazing. Like it's very streamlined, but um see, by looking at what was I talking about? Because by talking about the cage, I lost track of my thought now. But basically, um, what was I talking about before that?
You were talking about languages.
Yeah. You know what? I got off track. I don't know. So, what's the story of how you got that job? Because that's kind of interesting, right?
Yeah, that was it's quite a crazy story, kind of a Cinderella story, actually, because I never in my entire life thought I would ever be announcing for an MMA, show at all ever. But I was always an MC, so like I was a rap MC, and I was rapping one night at this club in Singapore, and it so happened that night that the one championship people were there, and I guess the previous announcer Lenny Hart was no longer with them, and they were looking for a new announcer. So I was there, and they saw me, and they're like, "Would you be interested in auditioning for one champion?" I was like, "Oh yeah, awesome!" Because I mean, I had been to one championship events before. I was like, "Wow, this is awesome." So I was like, "Of course, I would love to audition." So then I set up a studio spot, and I went in to record. But then a week later, executive called me and it's like, "Nara, where's your audition? We're waiting for your audition." And I told them, it's like, "Oh, it's coming. I'm waiting. I have to wait for my studio slot. I can't just go in there. It's not my studio." And they said, "You booked a studio?" I was like, "Of course. I'm auditioning for one championship. I'm going to book a studio."
Yeah.
And I had found out later that there's other applicants who had auditioned and they recorded it on their iPhone. So they didn't like show any go get 'em attitude,
Yeah.
professionalism. If you're gonna
Yeah.
audition for a company that's that big, you better come with your A game, man.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's you see, like when you mentioned the studio and all that, I have a friend who likes to play guitar, and to me, it didn't even occur to me that someone who does your job would even do it on their phone. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I say
You're
as I do it on
yelling.
my phone, but uh, but okay. By
No,
the
you
way,
want to
as a
get the
kind of
good sound quality.
yeah, but I remembered what I was gonna say before the whole circle thing made my brain go kaput. Um, so because you mentioned you don't have to speak in other languages, but I was actually gonna ask you as a quick side note, because when the fighters go to the circle, the announcers that I hear on YouTube are speaking in English. Now I was wondering, is
Yes.
it okay? So are the other languages as they happen live? Are they in the place, or is it? Are they on a remote location?
For some events, it depends on which
Yeah.
events because we travel a lot within Asia. So
Yeah.
some events, we will have the Chinese broadcast with us
Okay.
live, circle side, and we'll also have like the Japanese live circle side. So like it just depends on where we go, I
Mhm.
think. And then sometimes some locations they don't come; they are doing it from the studio. So it just depends on which location. But every event live, we do have Mitch Chilson and Anthony, not Anthony, Michael Chavello. Whoa, I don't know. I called him Anthony.
uh,
Michael. We always have Michael and Mitch for the. I would say 95% of every event they are there. Michael's always there. So yeah.
and so as the MC, so it's a really cool story, and it's amazing. I like to hear stories like that where where someone like yours, where someone came well prepared, and that in itself tells people, see, that person knows what it's about. You know, that person understands the job. So I like that sort of thing because it's kind of like you get what you in life. You often get the effort you put in. You know.
Put your best foot forward every time.
Yeah, and so when you prepare a championship event, like when you prepare for it, what are your responsibilities overall? Like, what do you have to do? Like, really, you are the one who has to do it.
Okay, so the main thing is fighter walkouts,
Mm-hmm.
and then my other main thing is the opening ceremony. So
Mm-hmm.
the opening ceremony is what happens usually after prelims, and
Yeah.
then that's like kind of like the grand, ceremony for the event to start. Yeah, that's what I do. So
So,
it's like the fighter walkout is like the cool part, the fun part of my job. The
okay.
opening ceremony is, I would say, the most stressful part of my job because you can't mess that up.
So, for someone who has never seen a one event, one championship event, those opening ceremonies, for example, I hope it's not enough for a question, but which one is your favorite of all the ones you've done? Which one was the one where you went, this is the perfect one?
Oh, they're never perfect. I always try to keep them improving. I mean, every single time I go back and I watch it, I'm like, oh, I gotta change this up, change this up. Like you have to keep getting better. And like, I don't know. I think it's not necessarily the best. I just think the opening ceremony that really I still remember is the one that happened in Japan, Tokyo, 1 century. Just because it was in like, the Ryukuken, the sumo arena just had such a great atmosphere. The acoustics in there were awesome. It was just a memorable one, and of course the fights in that event were just like insane.
And just I mean, for people who haven't seen it, like, how would you describe the opening ceremony? What does it look like when you're there?
The opening ceremony is like you get these like loud sirens, kind of the lights swirling. It's just like it's an experience. I would give it that. Like my first time, like to actually do it, it was such a I was such a ball of nerves. I'm telling you, it was like so nervous. Then like once I got started, it was like, all right, let's do this. But the fighters come out um, one by one. I announce them. They do a little,
Oh yeah, they
warm up
do it.
hyper
They
fight.
they each of them come out and they present themselves to
Yep.
the crowd, which is,
Yes.
by the
So
way, I have to say, I really love how one builds up their fighters instead of, like, just, oh, here they are. Like, no, they really build them up. That's one thing I really like. But yeah, please go on.
yeah, I mean it's kind of cool. Opening ceremony, and then the main event will come out last. You see them face off.
Yeah.
The belt on the line. It's kind of cool. Yeah.
So because before that, okay, so one is such a big stage. So no matter where it happened. Before that, you were basically, when they found you, you were in a nightclub. And how big was that compared to, like, going from nightclubs to one? I imagine the size of what you have to prepare is not even remotely like it's like boom, like not tuck 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 tuck. It really goes like boom. There you go. What?
I would say my first event was I was a nervous wreck. I was like shaking. I mean, it was cool though. It was like I really am thankful that they gave me the chance to actually like get in there and prove myself and see that I could fill those shoes. And I mean, it was cool. It still is cool. I mean, like I love doing it. It's awesome. It's a good feeling when the crowd is like, rah.
Yeah, but it's amazing to me because it really feels like, that, well, when I read your story, I was like, wait, what? Because you imagine that someone does this, and maybe they move on to bigger shows, and that's really like a big jump. And obviously, like, it all went great, and you know what you were doing, and that's amazing. But it really is something. Like, nightclub, one championship, like, boom. And the size of it, I can only imagine, like, the lights. Like, it's not even like the same game. I
Oh, it's
guess.
a different ballgame. It's a
Yeah.
different league.
So, okay, regarding your background, because you were raised in now you live in Thailand, is that it?
No, no. I live
Oh.
between Singapore and Thailand, but now I had to come back to Thailand because nothing is open in Singapore.
Uh, Yeah, crazy times.
Yeah.
Okay, so but you were raised in Texas, is that it?
Yeah. Born and
Okay,
raised in Texas.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm a long way from home.
and how did that happen?
It just happened. I don't know. I didn't really like living in Texas so much. I liked growing up there. It was amazing. But maybe as I got older, it was just what I felt like it wasn't for me. It wasn't a place. Maybe I just saw a lot of people with guns. Yeah. To be very honest, yeah. I saw a
Yeah.
lot of gun violence growing up. So I
Okay.
just didn't really like it. And I think that affected my psyche a lot. So I decided to move to Asia and pursue like singing and my emceeing and everything. So I was in Thailand for a few years and then I moved to Singapore because I got a gig in Singapore. Yeah. And it's so weird. I came from Texas where I was afraid of like people with guns to
Yeah.
Singapore where it's like ultra, super, super safe. So it might have been like subliminal messages that sent me to Singapore. I'm not sure.
It's true, yeah. Now that you mention it, it kind of goes from
Yeah.
one thing to the other. But okay, so it wasn't necessarily like about your MC career as much as just your personal happiness and preference for where you wanted to live.
Yeah. It was both. It was both following my passion to be in the music industry and then safety, and
Mhm.
then they kind of just went there, hand in hand. Yeah.
Because normally, people who are born in the U.S., like when they want to do music, I guess they go to see how
L.A.
little I know. I guess California. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. They go to L.A. They go to L.A.
LA goes, yeah, LA, and I guess that would be like the obvious place to go for a person who wants to do music and see that sort of music,
I, I
but yeah.
I went to L.A. I went to L.A. I did
Oh,
L.A. I auditioned for the show American Idol.
I never heard of it. Kidding.
I did American Idol when it was in my, was it first year? No, last year of senior high school. Was it senior high school or first year freshman college? And I went to LA. Yeah, cool. I auditioned in Houston and I made it through to the Hollywood round, and then
Mhm.
that was it. And then I came home. But I guess I got bit by the bug, saying like, if you could do this in America, you should go try this in Thailand.
But that leads me. Okay, that leads me to another question because I imagine you speak Thai, correct?
I did not speak Thai when I moved to Thailand. I spoke maybe two
Okay.
sentences worth. But in Thailand, I went to school to learn Thai. I went to a language school for a
Okay.
year to learn Thai. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. But your parents are both native from Thailand.
Yes, they're both native from Thailand. They're both retired now in Florida.
Okay. And
Yeah.
and so basically you just learned English. Did they try to teach you Thai and you didn't want to learn it, or it just didn't happen because you were in the U.S. or?
I think it was just like me being an American kid. I was just like speaking English, and
Okay.
then the only Thai that I really learned was when I had to ask my parents for stuff like, "Can I have some money?" I had to ask for it in Thai, like little
Really?
sentences like that. I was like, my mom's like, "Ask in Thai, and maybe you'll get it." I was like, "All right, fine."
That's fun. That's fun. Oh my God, that's funny. Um, no, I asked because also I have a newborn son and he has a mixed heritage, and I'm kind of thinking like, okay, all these languages we wish to pass on to him, and so that I'm actually asking for self-serving purposes. But okay, so you're in Thailand, and basically, yeah, I guess like party music, like the music scene, if I read correctly, you do rock and hip hop as well, right? Or rap, right?
Yes, rap,
Okay,
rap, rap.
rap. Okay, and what's the difference between hip hop and rap? I must ask.
Hip hop is the genre of music. Rap is the way you spit it, the way you rhyme it.
Okay.
Rap is like, yeah, like the poetry.
Okay. So, see, I never thought of this question before now. Um, so basically, you would do this in English. You're in Thailand, and you do music in English, rock and rap in Thailand. And how did the move to Singapore happen?
I came to Singapore the first couple of times because I was working with a DJ in Bangkok who was based in Singapore, and he was doing gigs in Bangkok, and then we met, and then he's like, would you be interested in doing a couple gigs in Singapore? I was like, yeah, sure, let's go. So I went a few times, and then I ended up getting a monthly residency at at that time the hottest club in Singapore was Zouk. So I started going there monthly into Singapore doing a gig at that club. So that's how I started. And then after that, after I gained some, some little fame in Singapore, I had some other clubs approach me to be like, would you be interested in doing my club full time? And then it just started from there, just building it up from the ground up. Yeah.
So obviously, by now I noticed this pattern. Like the pattern is you do a good job and it's noticed. This is what I'm hearing because you start in this city.
Hard work.
Exactly. So you start in this city. They go, hey, do you want to go to this big club in Singapore? And then in Singapore, because I think one championship, their HQ, so to speak, is based in Singapore, right? Or
yes.
okay, yeah.
Based in Singapore.
Yeah. I figure I don't need to do research. I can just ask the guest. So the HQ is in Singapore. You happen to be there, so sort of again, your professionalism is noticed. So at this point, let's say you have to give advice to upcoming MCs. What would you say are the things you did right that got you noticed, that got you forward in your career?
First of all, professionalism. Make sure you do it in the right format. If you're gonna have to do recording, do it in the studio. I mean, don't try and be cheap and save money. Do it on your iPhone. I know sometimes you might not have the money, but if you put your best foot forward, I think that's gonna be something that you don't look back and regret. Like you'd be like, I tried my best. Now, like I did everything I had to do the right way, and maybe it just wasn't my luck. It wasn't my time, but it wasn't for lack of my determination and my effort. Secondly, you got to be passionate about it. Like if you're not passionate about it, people will see that. People can see if you're doing something just for the money, or if you're doing something because you actually love it, you're excited about it. It's a whole aura you give off. Like in anything you do, I hope you have passion about it, because that's awesome. Like that's something that other people will gravitate to, and they'll feel your energy.
I gotta ask, have any fighters like told you like, oh, the way this happened when I came in, or like, did you ever get like any comments from the fighters or any interactions that?
Yes, all the time. The fighters
Okay.
that won are awesome. They're like, because when they see me, some of them don't know, they can't put a face to the voice.
Yeah.
So there was this one time I believe, where were we? I believe we were in, I can't remember what city, but we were on a bus, and I was with the fighters. And then they were like, who's this girl? Because it's a bus full of guys. I'm the only girl, okay?
Okay.
They're like, who's this girl? I'm like, and then so one of the managers goes like, oh, you don't know who she is? They're like, no, who's she? I was like, Nara, do it. I was like, fine. Representing. And then all the fighters go, oh, that's her. So then all of a sudden I'm like on the bus with all the fighters. They're like, give me the phone. Nara, can you do my walkout on my phone? Like they got really excited. So it was fun to have them finally put a face to the voice.
It again, and that goes back to it. I just feel like the way fighters are presented in one championship is awesome. Like the way, because just the fact that they have someone like you in the first place for those events, it's not just because many other organizations, they have amazing commenters, they have someone in the ring or the cage, like with a great voice, like for the beginning of the fight. But just the fact that, and I'm sure, look, I want to make this clear. I'm sure the other events also have people organizing the lights, also organizing the show, and they do an amazing job as well. That's not what I mean. But I feel like there is a level of showmanship and also respect for how you present the fighters. That's in one championship. Where just the fact that they have someone like because they're gonna have someone, they're gonna have the commentary saying the fighters' names. They're gonna have like someone in there introducing the fight and saying who's fighting. So these things are already in place, but they also have someone like you and like that hype, like that hype when they come out and the big screen behind them and the lights and the music and just all of that. It just makes for, it's kind of like they really want to build up their athletes, and it's kind of like and I guess from a more Westerner perspective, in my case, when I saw Mighty Mouse go to one, I was like, this is such a much better fit for him, right? Because it's like what he's about, his attitude, what he wants to present to the world, and this was just so much better, and again, I'm not trying to I certainly don't want to diss the work done in other places. That's not my point. My point is just the focus placed in presentation and how it's done. It just seems, for lack of a better word, very healthy. I don't know.
I feel like at one we treat our fighters when they come into the ring, we treat them like rock stars, man. Yeah. They come out, it's almost like a mix between like an MMA fight and like the WWE. They're like, yeah. I mean, just their entrance. They have like their own persona. It's cool. I mean, I think it's awesome.
That's such a good point. You said it perfectly. They're like rock stars. Thank you. And you see, like what took me so long to say, you said it real quick. Like they treat them like rock stars. And yeah, the persona. Like there's this guy who came out like in this shark suit. Baby shark.
Pet them. Yeah, like, baby shark.
The guy has this whole shark suit. I was like, what's going on? This is amazing.
I mean, some of them come out with like really elaborate walkouts, but whatever pumps them up before they get into that, the circle to fight. I mean, do whatever you need, man. Put on a good show.
Yeah. So overall, right now you're planning the next event, right?
Yes. Right now, I mean, hopefully, if like everything goes as planned, we'll have our next event July 31st here in Bangkok. Yeah. So
I have like two questions in one, because one question I kind of wanted to ask was basically when you go to the event live, you kind of answered already. I intended to ask you that question, like, oh, what do you need to be there live and not record the voice and just prepare the things? Obviously, because someone has to coordinate these things, and you're the MC, Master of Ceremonies, which is such a cool title. I actually prefer it to just MC, Master of Ceremonies. That sounds like very epic. But now with, I don't know if you've heard, but there's a pandemic going on in the world. I don't know that anyone has heard about it, but what would you say that? And obviously, I'm sure there's things you can't talk about how you're going to prepare and all that. Like, I'm pretty sure there's things that you cannot talk about. But overall, what do you say are the challenges right now for your job, if any? What are the challenges for your job with the way that the event has to be prepared now because of everything that's going on?
The challenges for my job is definitely the travel restrictions. Like, we have to jump through so many holes. Like, okay, I was in Singapore just a few weeks ago. Like, I'm currently right now, I'm in quarantine in Thailand. I flew in here, what day is it? I flew in here 13 days ago. So I have 2 more days of quarantine to go, and then I'm out. But yeah, so I've been put up in a hotel here for almost 2 weeks now by myself. But you got to do what you got to do. I mean, to get from A to B, you got to go through the 14-day quarantine. That's definitely the biggest hurdle, the travel restrictions. Yeah.
Okay. And for the job itself, there's like for the event, you don't have to do anything different, except maybe keep 2 meters apart from the other person or something like that, or just.
Before Singapore went into lockdown, we actually did a few closed events in Singapore. So no, I mean, as far as my job, nothing's affected. As far as the amount of people that we have normally inside the circle, even on our full audience events, we're spaced out apart. We are that space around the circle for just us is limited access. Like there's nobody in there. We don't have people in there and we have our space. So it doesn't affect like us during the events at all.
But and as an MC, when you see like that different, like I mean, because normally there's this type of crowd, now there's like, is there part of you that's like, oh, okay, this is a part of my job that's really affected. I can't wait to just see like the big stuff.
No, man, I can't wait to see the audience back because, of course, an MC, if they're doing the job right, I mean, I want to hear the crowd cheer. That's just like, that's the cherry on top of the ice cream sundae. When you hear the crowd cheering, that's like, yeah, you did a good job. So, but now you
Yeah,
have to change. I mean, I have to change my psyche. Like when I'm announcing now, you have to think I'm doing it to the television audience. And although I
yeah,
can't hear their cheering, you have to do just as good of a job because they can hear you. So it's
yeah,
kind of like doing the show in a mirror. It's because you're getting no feedback.
yeah. Yeah, that's one way to put it. But I'm sure it's one of those things where then you were talking about passion and loving the job, and then when everything goes back to normal, like it has to just reignite it even more. You know what I mean? Like it has to when that comes back, you realize what you lost. You know, like oh my god.
It
um,
makes it so much more special. I think
yeah,
once we can have an actual full event, it's gonna be like amazing.
that's cool. Uh, okay. Before we're done, I really wanted to mention if you can talk to the audience and just suggest combat sambo for one event, that would be really cool. I think.
If I can what? Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah. So if you could tell your bosses like at one championship, combat sambo would be really cool to see. I think in the event. Just a little side note. But um, so no, but seriously, it's really fun because when I found you online, I was like, that's a voice of, and I was like, I heard your voice in my head. That's like, when you hear someone's voice, it's like you watch those events and it hypes you and but then it's not like you don't always realize what it did for you. Like what I mean by for the event, like when you watch a movie and the soundtrack is really good, and maybe you have to watch a movie 2 or 3 times before you realize how good the soundtrack was. It's kind of the same thing when I saw like when I found your presence online, like the voice of one, I was like, and I heard your voice, and for some reason it was like Kuala Lumpur, and I was like, I heard your voice in my head, and I was like. So it's you're doing an amazing job, really, because I know nothing about like I know very little about music, as you've seen already, like MCs, DJs. Like I don't know. Like I had to ask, okay, so what does an MC do exactly? Um and within all of that, like I was like, oh yeah, I love that voice. Like when the fighters come in, that's amazing. So you're doing a great job because I'm not versed into those things, and I heard it. So I'm not like
Thank
someone
you.
who's judging on a regular basis. So okay. Before I go, anything you like? Where can we find you online? What are like your projects right now and such?
Right now, I'm just doing a lot of quarantine. But once I get out, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm probably just gonna get back on the grind, do some more music, and of course, keep doing one events when we keep having them, and that's about it. Online, pretty much you can just follow my Instagram or One Championship. Also, I'm with them, so that's good. Yeah.
Do you have music online that can be found as well?
I do, but that's old time music. So
Okay.
new music is coming out soon. So
Okay. Okay. Very well. Very well. Keep it at that. Very well. Perfect. Okay, Nara, listen, thank you very much for coming to the
yes,
show. This was a lot of fun.
thank you
I
for
learned a
having
lot
me.
about the behind the scenes, which is really interesting. I think it's a perspective we don't often, as MMA fans, there's things we just take for granted about MMA shows, right? So yeah, it was really fun to know what goes into it, and it's been a pleasure, really. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Bruno. Bye.
Bye. Oops.